Hey. Welcome to another episode. That's dope. My name is Godswill. We got co-host Matt back with us. Rounding out really like the squad, like this has been like these whole episodes that we've been doing this season 3 have been to like really introduce like the team, like all the people who have been making That's Dope happen in the past and will be making That's Dope happen. So, it's like, hey, let's bring on Matt, of course, to show off everybody. How you been doing, by the way? How's life been with you?
Hey, man. Yeah. I've been doing pretty well. Just kind of fixating on some hobbies of mine and really, plotting out, our new course for the next season. So I've been doing pretty well overall. How about yourself?
It's been weird, like sort of like ups and downs, I guess, like to be expected, but at the same time, like, I don't know, I just feel a little bit less energized than I usually do. Usually I'm always but I think maybe just being at home like all this time like has just sort of caused me to calm down, like in not the best ways, but it's whatever. Like I think we're getting back to it, especially as life is starting to get back to normal.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely looking forward to once we can kind of get everybody vaccinated and obviously knock on wood, but hopefully, get back out there in the event space, this fall or whatever,
man.
Get us back to our energy levels, because I definitely feel the lull,
Yeah.
It's natural, being kind of isolated, only doing some things. So I feel it.
Cool. I'm glad because, I think for a while I was like, should I be feeling this off? Am I alone? Yeah, I think like we're all just like at least me, like I'm stuck in my own head. Not being able to talk with you guys as often as I think I would like, and also at the same time, like I feel like I'm becoming like a lot more introverted, like where I really do like my own alone time.
I know. It is the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
Like, I started life as an introvert and then I got really extroverted, and then it's really, made me so introverted, and it's okay. Like I'm finding peace with myself, but at the same time, it's like, I miss people. I want that energy back. So
Yeah, exactly that. Like I feel like beginning of 2020, I was like, okay, introvert, like extrovert, let's go 100%, right? And then,
yes.
Now,
oh man,
people,
I know.
Got to go back to seeing people again too.
Just like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, right. How do I talk to people again?
Yep.
So that's fun, but
yeah.
Hey, like I'm happy that we're getting the podcast like back. Like I needed a few months. I think I needed that time really to just get myself back together. Like I think January and February were just so draining, just emotionally so. Yeah, like where politics was always a pain.
Yeah, good lord.
Yeah, constant. And
that was huge.
Yeah, it's just crap on crap. And then also I feel like a little guilty, like even complaining too. It's like honestly a lot of good things are happening, but at the same time it's I don't know. I think I just keep seeing like, oh, things could be better, but things are good, but things could be better, just that sort of weird back and forth. So I think it's good to talk about it, and also just to hear from you guys, like how has it been going with you guys? And I'm not alone in this, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel the same way. Energy immediately perks up just getting to talk to you guys. So it's a win-win for sure. And I mean, let's see. So this is the first day of Ramadan for you, right?
It's actually tomorrow. So yeah, I'll be doing some Ramadan fasting this year again. Like this is actually my 10th year of doing it, or it's been 10 years. I skipped a few years, but like it's the 10th year since I first started doing it. There we go. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think it's like the 8th time that I've done it, but yeah, it's been really nice. Like actually, like I think it'd be really cool to sort of explain, I guess, like what that is.
Man, all means.
Yeah, so like I'm not Muslim, but at the same time, like I've been exploring Islam, as well as I've been diving deeper like into Christianity. Just sort of the same time, and then also just even trying to dive deeper into like other religions too, like the Hare Krishna group, trying to understand Judaism more. Just trying to like understand myself a little bit more. And then also I've been sort of understanding that like I really dig Abrahamic faiths a lot. So, and as I read all of them, like they all fit together. It's just unfortunately like we've all been like, well, my group I'm the Baptist group. Well, I'm the
Mhm.
Pentecostal. Well, it's just sort of like
Yeah,
the
they
the
all split
little,
off.
yeah, So, but overall, like the main message is supposed to be like, okay, love God, and then that will trickle down into like figuring out what your life's supposed to be, like how you're supposed to help with
Mhm.
people, using your gifts well, right? So, anyways, with Ramadan fasting, I started that 10 years ago, and it's been a good opportunity to really just sort of reset, and then just sort of test myself and push myself and see how disciplined I can be. So, it's supposed to be a 30-day fast that moves back like 10 to 15 days every year, because it's based
Oh,
off the lunar calendar. Yeah. So like when I first
oh,
started,
okay.
it was in August. Yeah. So it's been going back, and luckily that means it's getting easier, right? At least for now. Yeah,
Mhm.
because like
Right.
before, when it was summertime, it was just like, oh no, what am I gonna do?
Yep, for
Um,
sure.
yeah. So yeah, now in April, May, like it's luckily not too bad. So during this fast, it's no food or water during the daylight. So like when the sun's out from 5 a.m. till 8 p.m. None of that, right? And then
Right.
also, of course, all the vices, not supposed to do them, right? So no drinking. You're not supposed to drink already as a Muslim, but I do. You're right. No smoking. I do that a lot. What else? Cutting out porn. I'm just like, oh man, cold turkey
All
on
of
all
it.
these things. So yeah, I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited because I think I do need to cut all these things out, or at least, just sort of temporarily. So,
Mhm.
like at least just be like, hey, let's just stop for a bit, let my liver get back, let my lungs get back, let my everything else get back,
Yeah.
my hand.
I feel you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
understand. Well, that's
Hmm.
really cool. That's really cool, especially that you've been doing it for so long. Because I remember you doing it last year,
Yeah.
and was it the year before? No, I think it was just last year.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I always thought that was super interesting, especially like you said, the interest in Abrahamic religions. That
Hmm.
always was an interesting thing to me in the past as well. I used to do a lot of religious studies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's obviously quite a big shock to a lot of people, but I actually spent some time as a youth minister,
Wow.
yeah, in a
That's
Baptist
cool. I can
church.
see you doing that. Yeah. Although I didn't know that was something you did.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, it was during a phase when I was a lot more clean of vices, like you mentioned. So it was a little easier.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, just like hanging out with the kids and doing fun stuff and events, and reading to them, preaching to them. But yeah, I studied a lot of most of the Bible, obviously, but then since I was in seminary school, I also did a lot of things about the Pentateuch and the Quran and things of that nature. So just
Wow.
how it all kind of split off, like it's kind of simply phrase the Abrahamic religions because it's like after Abraham, that's pretty much where it started to kind of diverge. So
Yeah.
it is all pretty interesting. But I'm also a huge history buff. So even though I'm not like a practicing Christian anymore,
Hmm.
right, I still enjoy like the rich history behind it and stuff.
Yeah.
So it is
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah, honestly, like I would say, like I'm like one aspect that's like has been really pulling me along with like these studies is like the history side of this, like
Hmm.
just sort of being like, oh, that's how the Persians interacted with the Jews or whatever, right? Like, or oh,
Right.
that's how the Arabs interacted with such and such group, right? Yeah, like I think it's really interesting, and just sort of even like hearing the stories about like what like how these groups, these early human groups, I guess. Like, is
Yeah,
that
early
like, yeah,
civilizations,
yeah,
and even tribes to begin with, like the
yeah,
tribe of Judah, as it's called. So, yeah,
man,
I
that's
feel
cool,
it.
man. I had no clue that was your background. Like that's
Yeah,
super cool.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
one of the many things.
yeah, right. I
Yeah,
bet. Like
I
it's like
dabbled a
multifaceted.
lot for the first like early 20s, for sure. So that's another story
Man,
for another time.
okay, all right. In the
But
future, I'd be definitely down to ask you about that some more because that's super cool.
yeah, man, just got to figure out what you're doing in life. That I thought that was my calling, but honestly, it's not it for me, and that's
Hmm.
okay,
Hmm.
to somebody else, but still super interesting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And I mean, like, on that note, I guess, easy segue for how much I love history and stuff, right? And like how huge I am into Viking culture and
Oh
stuff,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and Celtic lore and all that stuff, just early world stuff. So, fun fact, I took a DNA test like 2 years ago, I think. Um, but the way that it works, like, it gets more accurate as time goes on, because like they get a lot of hate. It's like, that's not exactly right, because I know my background.
Mm-hmm.
But it gets more accurate the more people who take it. Like the larger
Mm.
sample group you get, that's where they actually get their accuracy, because it's like, okay, I can compare you to a guy that has like a bunch of the same genetic material as you, and he's in Ireland. So if we get like a bunch of people in Ireland who are matching up, well, that must mean that's the Irish heritage. And so like then you can match with those things. So the point is though, I'm not Irish, first of all. That was just an example. But
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. I was like,
I
okay.
did
What?
find out though, like, because recently I checked back maybe a few months ago or so, and it had updated quite a bit because I hadn't checked it in like a year or so. And turns out I'm like nearly 40% Scottish. So yeah,
Oh
it's really cool. And like I looked at my mom's DNA as well, and she's like 50. And like, wow.
wow.
I knew also, because I had done a family tree before on their website, and it's very, very intuitive and great layout and stuff, where you can like trace back, family trees and stuff. And also my brother before like the big internet boom and stuff, because he's like a whole generation older, by the way.
Oh
He's Gen
okay.
X.
Oh wow.
Um, he did like just paper research, like on public records and stuff, and was able to trace all the way back to Robert the Bruce, the first king of Scotland.
Oh.
And so that's like on my mom's side, and then I confirmed it on the website by like tracing it back myself. So super cool, to know that, like, I don't know, you know,
I mean, that's super
least
cool for real.
Scottish, just because like white people is just like, okay, well, you're probably English. So like, oh, well, that's great. But
Mhm.
so that was at least cool to kind of hone in on a little bit more specific. So that was cool. But anyway, all that being said, that was not really the point of the story as much as it was kind of leading into, I've been into Vikings, then I found out that I was very much Scottish. So, point of all that is, you've been begging me to play Hellblade for so long,
Oh yeah.
and I finally did it. I'm not going to say that I beat it, but like I
Okay.
played a lot of it to the point where I really get the feel for it. And first of all, you're absolutely right. I should have been playing it a long time ago. Super, super amazing game. Incredible, really. And so, like, that's why I kind of walk into that. Is first of all, I was incredibly impressed with the historical accuracy as much as they could be, because obviously it's a psychological thing as well.
Mhm.
But just the fact that, it was someone of the Pict tribes of the Celtic peoples who originally inhabited the Orkney Isles, uh, and how she left and came back, and the Vikings had done their thing. That was real. Obviously, it's like that based on a true story sort of thing, where the characters aren't real.
Mhm.
But the story is in that the Orkney Isles were invaded by Vikings from Norway, in fact, and they like just completely took it over, just wiped everybody out, and just said, "This is our new like base, naval base, our little pirate point to like launch off from." So like that was all true. So like the fact that she imagines it as Helheim, that's obviously the psychological part, but it really was like taken over by Vikings when it was their home before. So they eventually took it back, like, 1,000 years later. That's not true, but say like a few
A
hundred
1,000 years.
years
Wow.
later,
Yeah, they held it on for a long time, huh?
right?
Holy smokes.
But yeah, no. So that was like super cool. So I loved all the historical accuracies. Was like kind of the lead in, I guess, of all that.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
knowing that also like, the early Celts, the Picts and stuff, is what eventually formed, Irish and Scottish peoples. So like it just hit on both the bases that it's the story of the precursor to Scottish people being raided and fighting Vikings, and then integrating
Man.
and like
Oh.
sharing blood a little bit. So it really hits all the notes as far as history stuff goes for me.
That's dope. Yeah, because I really had no clue. Like for me, it was an engaging story,
Hmm.
but I was wondering like what does it mean? I guess like, and then also like how true is this to I mean, like still learning so much about like this culture. Like I just recently beat God of War. Like where he goes
Yes.
into
Amazing.
amazing. Like that's a true masterpiece of a game.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Best
I
reboot.
yeah, honestly, I was a little worried about it. In fact, I remember like before when it was coming out, and I was like, I don't know, man. Like I already beat God of War 3. I loved it. They don't need to bring it back.
Mm,
And I just
this
was
is different.
sleep on Sony like trying to put out God of War,
Mm,
and I was so enthralled with the world. Really, like the game itself, amazing characters, amazing, but the world, I never knew about like all the different Heims. I never knew about like the lore of the gods. Um, like I mean, I've heard about Ragnarok all the time. I haven't seen Thor Ragnarok yet. Oops.
that's barely relevant,
Okay.
honestly.
Okay. Cool.
That's the
Cool.
Marvel version. So,
Okay. Yeah, and also I think that's the thing is like I always see different versions. I mean, I'll never forget Hercules making me think that Zeus
mm,
was a cool dude, right?
right? He was a dick.
Yeah, honestly, it was like it was like he was a huge dick, and like
Oh,
literally
yeah.
too, just like all right, I'm gonna go fuck you too. I'm gonna fuck you
Right?
too, right?
Just all over the place. Not
And
cool dad.
yeah, like horrible dad, horrible entity guy, I guess. I don't know, just
Right?
horrible overall. God of War really cemented that, where it's like, yeah, him and it was Thor and who, like, I think like one of his sons.
Just Balder. Balder was the
Yeah,
first guy you fight.
yeah, and I felt bad for him because
Mm,
like his mom was cool, and it sounded like he was really going through it. But like, who was the
right.
son that killed the giant that was a craftsman? I think it was it. Uh,
Test my memory here.
uh, I guess it was Thor. Yeah, I guess it was Thor.
I think you're. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Yeah,
Yeah,
honestly.
man. Thor was a giant dick.
Oh
Like
yeah,
he just going around killing everybody. He
yeah. He's
wasn't nice at
pretty
all.
neutral, honestly, in like Norse mythology. Like
Oh, really?
because he's the god of thunder and whatnot. And so if you were out on the ocean voyages and stuff, he could just suddenly get pissed with you or like want to play a game, and that's what they would blame like giant like waves and like sea storms for like killing ships, and they're just like, well, it's just what he does. He's the god of the sea, and
Man,
he does what he wants. So they'll just be like, yep, he's angry. So
holy
yeah,
shit.
he was seen as kind of a douche.
It
Like
does make
he's cool,
the
but
sort of it makes the randomness and like unfairness of life a little bit more tolerable, I guess.
true.
I
Yeah, yeah,
guess like where it's like nothing I can control, nothing I did, just
right.
just I don't know. He was bored and he decided to fuck with me, I guess. But at the same time, it's just like yeah, that's freaking horrible, and it definitely makes me the God of War as a whole made me interested like in that world of sorts. And then
Mm.
like Vinland Saga, we talked about that
Oh
before,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
and that got me hyped. I still need to read that. It's really
Mm.
cool seeing like these Viking and this world depicted like in fiction. Really, it's like but I need to play that newer Assassin's Creed. Like
Oh
that was
yeah, yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that one's great. I haven't played a whole lot of it, honestly, just because like I played enough to know that I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And like I have other stuff that's like seasonal going
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
so it's like I'll have plenty of time to get back to that. I know I'm going to play it too.
Uh,
And another one, by the way, for you that came out a while back, you've probably heard about because it got a lot of hype. But Valheim, you
oh
heard that?
yeah, I've been wondering like what that game's about. I heard it's like Minecraft ish.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
crafting survival game. So Minecraft is obviously going to be the first go-to as far as like how well known the game is.
Uh huh.
But then there's also a whole genre for survival games, especially online, because you can have a server on this.
Mm.
Um, but like Rust, and there's a lot of post-apocalyptic games out there, or
Hmm.
Ark, if you've heard of that, the
I have
dinosaur
heard about
one.
Ark. Is that the one you're supposed to like kill? Yeah, you pick up things and you're trying to find food and stuff, or is that the wrong
Yeah,
game? Okay.
no, it's one of them. That's basically
Okay.
the whole genre in a nutshell. Really, you just like start out naked somewhere for no good reason, and like pick up rocks, and then make like caveman tools and then somehow end up with like a machine gun by the end. So
Dr. Stone, but
yeah,
just
basically
more
Dr.
violent.
Stone games.
I
Yeah.
like it. All right, because
So
Dr.
it's the whole
Stone.
thing.
Whew, all
Oh
right,
man, yeah, that's
selling me in
great.
this. I need to play more PC games. Honestly, I've been
Oh yeah.
saying this forever. I've been saying it this whole week. Actually, I was like, maybe this is the week I start playing some PC games. You know, maybe I'll start playing Overwatch on PC. But I'm like, but my PlayStation though.
Oh,
I love my
right.
PlayStation.
Oh. I love me some PlayStation too, but
But PC's where it's at though.
PC, yeah, it's just way too many games. Like my Steam library is like 400 games because they'll just like, have massive sales all the time. But
Yeah. That would just stress me out though. I feel stressed out with the game queue I got going on right now myself, I'm like, I haven't done this, and oh my gosh, I need to do this, and also one thing I really realized recently about the way I play games, I love stunting. All right. I love showing off, like, yes, I beat this game. Yes, I got the platinum trophy for this. I did
yeah.
everything or at least everything to get this trophy, right? But I do need to get on PC. Like I feel like I'm missing out so much, like there's just so many games on there that everyone's always talking about.
I
And
know.
just whole different worlds that, I mean, even like all the crossplay games you can play, like the
Mhm.
Call of Duty and such, right?
Right.
Just seems like a better experience playing it on PC, huh?
It is, especially, first person shooters, depending on your style. I mean, like we recently discussed personally, like you're going to have to go through some adjusting, not having the joysticks. But honestly, like 1v1 of someone who's used to both, PC will win every time because the mouse, like, it's just, you can just twitch so fast, but also stay on target so easily. Recoil actually is not even a factor. Interesting little tidbit, because like I play a whole lot of Destiny 2, and the guns have different stats, just like the ones in Call of Duty, where it's like we got stability, and accuracy, damage, etc. And one of the stats is stability, and it basically affects recoil. So people who play on PlayStation or Xbox, I guess, but that's important because like to stay on target, especially if we're talking competitive play, PvP, you'll want to stay on target. So stability is important. Whereas in PC, it's just like in D&D, a dump stat. Completely, just don't worry about it, because recoil does not matter with the mouse and keyboard, because you can just adjust by just dragging slowly down, and like you stay on target. And like, so recoil is not a thing on PC really. So you can focus elsewhere, like into accuracy and stuff. So just interesting little tidbit. So once you get used to it, again, a pro on both sides, the PC player will win, just because it's easier just in every way.
That makes
for a
sense.
shooter.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I love like the PlayStation controller, but then again, I haven't tried the PC as much. I need to.
It's going to take getting used to.
Yeah, I think maybe that's it, because I mean, I still have to look down when I type every now and then. Like, I'm just sort of like, which button am I pressing again, right? But I'm gonna get the hang of it. Yeah, and I guess I'm still sort of getting used to like having like a desktop. I've always just had laptops ever since getting banned from the family PC for looking at too much porn as a kid.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that pain. Yeah.
Not alone.
Oh yeah, so another thing I did want to add about Hellblade.
Yeah.
So obviously, we discussed it full, all the history stuff and how we're history buffs and whatnot. But obviously, like we discussed last time, well, I mean, you were telling me more about it than I was. I was just responding. But now that I've seen it and played it and stuff, it's an amazing take, especially because I did the research on like how accurate it was, because like I don't mess with like fallacies or whatever as far as like psychology goes, because that's my main focus if I had anything in life. Like my biggest thing above history is psychology, or at least like sociology, evolutionary psychology, stuff like that. So like if the game were to be really fake, it would turn you off, right? To get into it at all. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Honestly, the amount of research that they did was just incredible, which I'm sure you probably know. But for instance, like they went as far as to actually like the voices in her head, and hopefully, I don't think what call this spoilers. I mean, like I'm not
Yeah,
going
I
to
don't
tell you
think
what
it's a
happens in the
spoiler. Yeah,
game.
I would say that
It
you
happens
should
within the
hear about that.
first introduction, But anyway, the voices in her head, the team actually even uh, would record with I think it's called like a binaural mic, something, I don't know. But
Okay.
basically, it would be a certain special kind of microphone that they would be in the middle of a room, and they'd have multiple voice actors come in, and it can pick up like a 3D sound effect of where the people are, where their voices are coming from, and not just like quieter or louder, etc., but like actual like 3D sound. So they'd have multiple voice actors in there, like shouting and whispering and stuff in different locations of the room, so that then the
Oh.
player hears it just like she would from multiple distances and angles, because that's actually how people with psychosis, excuse me, who have like auditory illusions perceive things. It's not just like a stable, steady voice a lot of times. And so, on top of that being cool enough already, they actually would bring in what is called voice hearers, which is auditory hallucinating people,
Oh.
to review the recordings after they were done and give them feedback on how accurate it was. Like, is this really how it sounds? Until they were pinning down that, yeah, at least for the people that were there to help them,
Mm-hmm.
the final draft basically was, yeah, that's pretty accurate as to what I hear in my head.
Wow, that's what's up.
Yeah,
Because
so
I
like
had
whenever you
heard.
see that, it's like, whew.
Whew, that's so cool. I did know like that they did work with like people, like who have like a, I guess, mental illness. I'm not sure if that's like the proper term for it, but I guess like that were going
Mhm.
through like psychosis to like participate. But I didn't know about the 3D recordings. Also, I didn't know that like they got people, the voice hearers to like really participate like that. So
Yeah,
that's dope. That's really dope.
for sure. And to get to that point, honestly, not knowing what to call it as people with mental illness. So psychosis itself, it's not even like a capitalized noun, right? Because it's not actually a disorder; it's a symptom rather than a disorder. And it's basically, if you wanted to sum it up, it's seeing, thinking, hearing, feeling things that aren't real, basically, but being convinced that they are, at least sometimes.
Hmm.
And this is more of a symptom of a plethora of other mental illnesses. The most popular, or not popular, but rather most well known one would be schizophrenia.
Hmm.
They have a lot of psychotic episodes. But then there's all sorts of others, even coming down to some things called like a delusional disorder, for instance, which is not schizophrenia per se, because they don't have. Man, I could get so long winded about this,
I
but
mean, this is dope. Like I had no
there's-
clue about any of this.
oh
So this
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. So hallucinations and delusions have like two categories, known as bizarre or not bizarre, and that doesn't actually carry the regular definition of bizarre. It's its own actual term in like the DSM, the manual for psychology and diagnostics. Um, Had a brain fart, but uh, so basically, bizarre though. So say you have a delusion. Um, there's two sides. So there's, say, like an example that's actually in the DSM, for instance, is a person believes that they have at some point been knocked out, had their organs removed, and then had someone else's organs placed in them. This would be a bizarre uh, delusion, because it's something that they've never experienced. There's no reason to believe it. And it's something that normal people, not normal people, just your average life would never ever come across. So there's no reason that they should feel that way. And there's no anything. Whereas a non bizarre delusion could be something along the lines. In the more extreme cases, is like there's been a hitman hired out there to get you because you like pissed off the wrong person, and now you're like thinking you're hearing like people following you, and like you'll see like the mailman and think that he's like a hitman, stuff like that, which is like it's pushing the limit, the barrier of sorts, but it's something that's realistic in the way that like it's not that hard to conceive.
Yeah.
Basically, it's not like bugs are crawling under your skin. Like that's a bizarre one, for instance.
I see. Oh
Um,
wow.
but then on like the lower end of the spectrum, because everything is a spectrum really in life, but especially in psychology. But with other types of delusional disorder, for instance, there's like delusions of grandeur. Everyone's heard of that,
Mm-hmm.
but it's actually a mental illness. Like you can have illusions of grandeur temporarily, but if you permanently do, it's actually a delusional disorder more than likely, where you think that you're actually, a king, for instance, or you're made to be like a prophet or something like that.
Mm.
Also, another one that fits into that category, that's also pretty, I wouldn't call it pretty, but kind of prevalent and like scary for other people is it's called like erotomania. I don't know how you would pronounce that properly, but basically, yeah. What it is that it's a person who is completely convinced, like not just I think, they're convinced that someone out there is completely in love with them. And it could be anybody as far as like just someone they met and then they start like stalking them, or it could even be a celebrity. They could like I could literally believe that Taylor Swift is in love with me
Oh.
and like be obsessed all the time.
So
Like
someone
that's
that
a
you don't even
delusion.
that doesn't even know you really, right?
Right. See, these are things that are non-bizarre though, even though it's a delusion at the end
Possible.
of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like it is, yeah, it's just something that's more possible than saying like I see Satan,
Yeah, I
you
see.
know. So that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what differentiates. But these are all symptoms of disorders. Um, Even coming down to like general medical disorders, you could just it could be a lesion on your brain. You don't have to actually have a mental illness. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that real quick, that psychosis is very misunderstood, but also I love that they did the research enough to not give her a diagnosis,
Yeah.
because they just said she has psychosis in any description, in any interview. And she has all the symptoms that we could sit here and try to diagnose it's schizophrenia, or it's,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's actual, some other sort of disorder, but they don't. They just say that she has psychosis. And I really like that they don't, because it's historic too. So they didn't have words outside of
Yeah,
like
900,
just
the year 900.
derogatives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like super cool too.
Yeah, like it's really like this game, like especially that whole thing is really cool. I had no clue about that. I was wondering if she did have like a thing or like a particular illness of sorts, I guess. But yeah, I guess it's for the best that they don't say, "Oh, she has this," unless it's stated that she had this, right? But um,
Hmm.
I think like Hellblade was like the first time like I had even like really thought or been like in the shoes of someone with mental illness of some sorts. Like where I've always heard about schizophrenia of sorts, or um, you know,
Hmm.
I guess hearing voices, like hallucinations and such. But like it was very interesting to sort of go through it, to actually be like, oh, like
Yeah.
it's scary, honestly, and especially I guess back then,
Yeah.
right, when no one knew what it was, and it's just sort of like, oh, you've been touched by the gods or something like that,
Right.
right?
You're cursed
Yeah,
and like need to be outcast because like you're just causing problems and stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty wild.
whew, man,
Um,
I'm glad you're playing
yeah,
the game though. Like that's so
yeah,
dope,
yeah.
Like
It's super enjoyable, especially after like I read up all the stuff that they researched.
that's so dope. Yeah, like I'm excited for you to beat the game and then to like really like I want to hear a report about this.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
And
because
I mean, I gotta throw out just one last thing that was like
yeah,
super
yeah,
interesting that I just remembered,
yeah, yeah.
because like I guess now this is gonna sound really dumb, but Ninja Theory, right? Are they in the UK, right?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, like I
Because
don't think they're
it
based in the
sounded like
U.S.
when I was reading that it was all UK vernacular and like a couple of places that they went were in the UK. But
Mhm. Yeah, looking it up right
regardless,
now, they're in Cambridge, England. So yeah,
okay, yeah, that's
nice.
what I thought. Because like the University of Cambridge is where they got one of the professors to help them out with this.
Ah,
Um, but another interesting thing that unfortunately I couldn't find any links to, as far as finding what this college was, and I guess maybe it was for their identity, like whatever. But they apparently worked with what's called a recovery college, and I love this. I really wish it was in the U.S., but basically, as an establishment, it's a college, right? That acts as both a mental health facility for people who have to be, you know,
institutionalized, I guess.
inpatient, yeah, inpatient mental health,
Okay.
but also it's a college for the patients, so
Oh,
they
really?
actually get to like get a degree while they're institutionalized
Wow.
for free. Like
Wow.
as far as I know, but like healthcare is a lot better over there. But
Yeah,
anyway,
not US.
no. But so they work directly with that college, which is like super cool, and they were super inspired. Like a huge chunk of where they got their like direction really for what she was going to be going through in her psychosis was a girl in particular at this college who has to live with angry voices screaming at her and slamming on her doors and walls 24/7. It never sleeps, interrupts her sleep. And also, even that she would see like dead bodies hanging from her ceiling, sometimes so convincingly so that she would try to rescue them, but there's nothing there. So that really had a lot of like inspiration as far as what you go through in the game. And that's where I won't get into spoilers, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff that they
Whew.
really, really took from real people, that go
I had no
through
clue.
this kind of stuff.
Wow, that's terrifying. That's bizarre,
It
right?
is. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is very, very much in the bizarre category.
Wow. So you're giving me like another healthy appreciation of the game because I love the game. Like, and I'm excited for the sequel that's supposed to be coming out. They hinted that a sequel is
Ooh,
supposed to be coming out soon. Um,
okay.
don't know when, or
Right.
at least I haven't heard anything recently about. Hopefully this year we'll hear more about it when video game season this summer is supposed to come up, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh
definitely. I haven't been
man,
following too much just because
yeah, you're going through
I
it now.
get so used to, this past year of everything getting pushed back like 6 months or so
Yeah,
because of all the delays on understandably. But so I kind of lost track of what's coming out when,
yeah.
honestly. But that would be super cool though. I would love to play a sequel.
Yeah. In fact, actually looking it up right now, they said it's supposed to come out this year, November
Okay.
2020 or next year, between 2020 this year to March 2021. That's what the internet has said so far. But I agree with you. Maybe it's too early to still count chickens, especially since we're all still going through the pandemic, right?
Hey,
Yeah.
but it's still something to look forward to because
Yeah.
super, super great team. So
Ooh,
I love it.
yeah. Yeah, man, that's really dope that you're playing that game. Like, and this whole thing, like that you just talked about, super cool. Like, it's making me really have like a healthier appreciation for the game. Wonderful game that I think people
Right.
should just at least check out because
For sure.
yeah, like it felt like a movie,
Hmm.
and especially like if you play it the correct way of like having the headphones on.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
especially like having a good gaming headphone that does like three directional sound, because that's how it was recorded and intended to be, is just phenomenal to hear, and just touching knowing that that's like so realistic to what some people feel that it's like, dang, that's
yeah.
a real whole new appreciation right
Yeah, exactly. The fact that you brought this even more so home, like where it's like, yes, real people have gone through this, or they have like interviewed real people who do experience this type of psychosis. Like it just makes it like, wow, this is more powerful. It still is like it was already a powerful game.
there. Oh yeah, for
Uh,
sure, in its own right.
yeah,
But so much added in, so much research,
yeah.
so it's great.
Man, that's really cool, man. And, like, thank you very much for that. And
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I think it's a game that people should check out because like it was like one of the first times that like I got to step in the shoes of someone with mental illness of sorts. Something we always talk about, but I think it's sort of hard to empathize with it because it's so personal or individualized, right? And
Mm,
then also it's just so internal like, you see someone with a cut and it's like, ow, oh, paper cut, that sucks, right? Or, even, if you see someone bleeding, then it's like, okay, that's a problem, right? You don't ask questions, are you faking it or whatever, right? Like
Right.
it's you see pain or blood or like physical duress, and it's like, okay, I understand that person is in trouble, let's go do something about that.
Right.
But yeah, this mental illness, it's hard to conceptualize, and it was really cool to see in the video game of all things, like a really fun game too. Like I
Yeah.
had a blast playing it, but the story was like really like the thing that pulls it along. And the
Mm.
story of this woman, like, who's really going through it the whole time, unfortunately, with
Yeah.
angry voices and just the scariest of visions, especially in the 900s, where I'm like, well, if I die out here, I trip on a rock and I get that infected, well, I could literally die.
Yeah.
uh,
I feel you.
I'm glad that, like, also I'm really glad that we're not in the 900s where like I'll never
Oh
forget,
yeah.
like, in Game of Thrones. Well, sorry if it's a spoiler for someone, but how one of the characters died from a knife cut, just like a regular knife cut. He didn't get checked, and then it got infected, and then he died. Supposed to be one of the strongest guys, dead from a knife cut. It's just like, ugh, I couldn't. So
Man. Yeah, no. That's all right. I mean, Game of Thrones has been out for a good long while, but still on that note though, just yeah, it's wild to know that just the simplest of things. I mean, even as far or as recent as like Wild West, like
yeah,
you get a gut shot and you're dead.
done.
Guaranteed.
Exactly,
That's it.
right. Yeah, get dysentery from drinking the wrong water, right?
Yep. Oregon Trail stuff.
Yeah, exactly, right. Oh, you died of pneumonia or whatever, right?
Right.
Hell, just even watching Doctor Stone, right? They were talking about, like, are you watching Doctor Stone, by the way?
I I watched the first season all the way
Okay,
through.
nice.
Um, I need to watch the second season. I've been watching some other anime though.
Ooh, what you watching?
Man. So I know you're a whole lot more on the shonen side of things, and I love shonen as well. I
I
love them.
like I like I like a lot of it. Like, in fact, actually, I'm getting into some really good slice of life right now and some comedy. I'm watching a romance
Okay.
show, and I'm watching
Oh,
a slice
okay.
of life. Yeah, yeah. So what are you watching? I watched all.
On that note, with the slice of life comedy, the
Uh,
rom com stuff, uh, just because like I guess it was more recent, and honestly, I'm ashamed to say I don't know exactly when it came out, but the second season came out somewhat recent.
uh-huh.
But Quintessential Quintuplets.
Oh, I've heard about that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What is that one about, and why is it good?
Oh man,
Because I've been hearing
it's
people talk about it
honestly, yeah, it's made it honestly into probably my top five anime.
of all time.
It's
Wow.
really good. Yeah, it's really good. So basically, I don't know if you're just recently getting into rom coms and stuff, you
Mhm.
may not have seen it, but there was one from like 2016, maybe, called Nisekoi. Maybe you've
Mhm.
heard of it. A lot of
I've heard
people.
of it.
There's a
Don't know what
pretty
it's
big
about.
fan base,
Hmm.
but it's
Yes.
basically harem anime. Honestly,
Okay.
is the way to sum it up.
Okay.
Um, and
Like a
so,
regular, like, where a guy just has like a bunch of chicks around him. They're like all about him.
yeah, they're like everyone in the show. Every girl is in love with him, or like maybe not at first, but they'll always fall in love with the character. It's
Okay.
similar to a lot of isekai. Dude's always clueless. The only difference being like there's no action otherwise.
Uh huh.
Um, so
That
it's
always
just literally all about
hurts my soul to see that, but I definitely understand.
yeah. Um, so basically, this one in particular, though, which from a review that I read after the fact, is like the most like Nisekoi of any other anime since then. It's basically the spiritual successor, if you will. Not made by the same people at all.
Should I watch Nisekoi, by the way?
Oh, absolutely. That one's
Okay.
that one's like just under the Quints in my top
Wow.
5 to 10, range. Maybe it's number 6, we'll say.
Okay. Okay.
So it's definitely worth watching for sure. So basically, so before I get back to the quintuplets, just a
Hmm.
quick little synopsis, I guess, of Nisekoi
Hmm.
is it literally is called like I can't remember for sure, but like fake love basically is what it means, or like the subtitle for what it is.
Hmm.
And so there's a dude, and like, I don't know, he's got some important family. I want to say I can't remember which, but
Like
either
royalty
him,
type of deal, or like.
well, yes and no. Like, I can't remember which one it is.
Mhm.
So either him or the girl that comes in is like just like super powerful and like important person in Japan. The other one, which I think is the dude, is actually an heir to the Yakuza throne, like one of
Oh
the
wow.
family leaders. But yeah, and so like it sounds intimidating,
Mhm.
but you never see any of that. So it's just like, anyway, so she moves into town, and basically their dads make like a pact. But I think they're actually both Yakuza, to be honest, if I remember. It's
Okay.
been years, so forgive me.
Mhm.
But I think they're both Yakuza bosses. And they make like a treaty. It's almost like Romeo and Juliet, right? Like, we won't fight, or I guess it's the opposite, but like, we won't fight if we can like get our kids together. So basically, dude's dad says, "Hey, you're gonna fake being in a relationship with her, whether you like it or not." And he's
Okay.
like, "What the hell, man?" And he's not interested. And like, she is like Sundari.
Okay.
Sundari is the
Oh
one
yeah, yeah,
that treats you like shit at first, right?
yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay,
And
so she's super Sundari,
that's the type
treats
of
him
chick
like
I have like
shit.
a lot of problems with too. I'm like, I don't know.
Bad
Yeah.
bitches.
Do you like
Anyway,
Sundari chicks?
uh depending on the character design, honestly, they can
Oh,
be good. But
is
I
she hot or not?
overall though 90% am like not into it. I'm really
Yeah,
like, it's not my thing. I
yeah,
really do
yeah.
like the yandere
Is that
sort of
like the chill
thing.
one or like the shy one?
It's like the
Oh, is that
shy
the
but
crazy one?
deadly. Yeah, like
Okay,
they're
there we go.
so in love that it's just like, no, he's
Yeah,
mine. Like, I'll kill
like almost
anybody else.
possessive.
Yeah. Depending on the anime, sometimes it's actually like they'll like mutilate people.
Like the Future Diary.
Or yes, Future
Yeah.
Diary is
Hmm.
Yandere. Like, the picture of Yandere is her. But in the calmer anime, yeah, it's usually the shyer girl who's just like so obsessed with him that's just like, what are you doing with him?
Sort of like Attack on Titan, I guess Mikasa, right?
Yeah.
Or if we were talking about more realistically shy, right? And not
Mm,
Mikasa, right? Not like, oh, she's a secret soldier type of deal, right?
right, right.
Hmm.
So yeah, basically he's forced, they're both forced into this relationship. And the first time they meet, like, they don't even know who it is, of course. And so like they fight right off the bat, and like they hate each other, but they're forced into this fake relationship, and it just like plays out over time, and it's hilarious. And then it turns out, oh my god, like 5 some odd years ago, there was a girl who I like shared my first kiss with when I was like 12 years old, and we agreed to get married when we got older. But it's like a mystery girl. He doesn't remember who it is anymore.
Mm,
But
okay.
they like exchanged. He's got a key, and she had a locket.
Oh.
And so basically, then like chaos ensues when multiple other girls show up slowly into the show, are introduced, including his childhood love. He's like the one he's actually been interested in since childhood, and she's the yandere.
Hmm.
She actually shows up episode one, but then several or a couple others show up later, and they all have lockets of different shapes. And you see where
Okay.
this is going.
Uh,
I won't say
uh,
any more, but the whole
okay.
show just plays out of trying to figure out who it was. And then overall, over time, they all just fall in love with him anyways. And then he's got to like take his pick later.
All right.
So
I mean,
almost the
you're
same
selling me on
premise.
this though. Like the
Okay,
fact that it's
yeah,
like in your top 10, I'm like, okay.
it
And
is.
I have heard other people like more like the more hardcore anime watchers talk about it. I just never knew what it was, and I always
Yeah.
forgot. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's going on a queue.
that's the premise. And then that literally carries right over into the quintessential quintuplets. And that very beginning of the episode, he runs into a girl who they don't get along at all. They butt heads, and it's just like, screw you, man, later. And then it turns out he's told by his dad that he's got a gig to tutor um, some girls, some sisters, because he's like the number one scorer, obviously, like in the whole school, like always gets number one in the rankings, smartest guy there is. And so he's like, sure, because his dad and his family are poor and in debt. So like they need all the money they can get. So he's taking this tutoring job.
Mm-hmm.
And of course he shows up for the gig, and it turns out to be this girl he's like, please, no, not her. And then all these other girls start coming out of the woodworks like, hey, what's wrong with her? And then he's like, wait, what? And why do y'all all look the same? And it turns out they're literally quintuplets. So they all have the exact same face and body shape, but just different haircuts. And then chaos ensues because he can't tell them apart. The watcher can easily tell them apart, very easily, by the
Okay.
way.
Oh,
But
like, do they all look the same? All right.
they
Okay.
do like to trick you, though, because they all love to play shenanigans since childhood of dressing up like each other to get each other out of problems. So
Uh,
then sometimes you don't know who it is because they'll do some things that are like plot twists.
uh-huh.
And it's like, oh my God, what do you mean? Who was that for real? And you may not know for like 10 episodes later.
Wow.
Like lots of plot twists. And this one's a lot more romantic. Like it is a huge comedy as well. Like there's so much nonsense. And I love like the silliness behind it. But it also like gets like doki doki,
Wow.
like over time. And basically starts out with like one of the girls likes him, but it's just is friendly with him. All the other girls are not interested in studying because they're all failing.
Mm.
Um, it's oh yeah, and it's like some rich dude, so he's getting paid like 10 times the amount that he normally would. So that's why he's interested. He would have quit, but it's going to like pay off their debt because they're like a billionaire basically.
Oh, wow.
So point is,
Trying to get in with that.
he
Yeah.
has to force them into it when none of them want to do it because they're lazy and they fail everything. And so he has to spend the whole time trying to convince them to work with them and like play to each one of their like specialties or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then overall, like over time, eventually they all fall in love with him and then start fighting each other like over it, like a
Okay.
battle royale almost, like pretending to be each other and playing tricks and
Uh-huh.
then sometimes encouraging each other and crying it out. Like there's a lot of emotions, honestly. Oh yeah. And then it's mild spoilers, but I already just did the same for Nisekoi because it's the same thing. But big surprise, like a number of episodes in, you find out that 5 years ago, when he was like 12 years old, same thing. He met a girl in Kyoto, and they like shared a date all day, and like I don't know, he fell in love with this girl, and he's got a picture in his wallet that someone took of them. And first of all, he looked like Bakugo at the time, but he has like dark hair now, so the girl doesn't recognize him anymore as an adult, or not adult, but like an older teen. And also, he's cleaned up his act and turned into like a grade A student. So, anyways, turns out that like all of them looked just like this girl when they were that age, and they all went to Kyoto that same summer. So now he's got to figure out that it's one of them, and he's got to marry basically whichever one it is. And it shows you several times throughout the series, fast forwarding to like 5 years more later when they're like 22,
Oh.
he marries one of them. But
Okay.
you have to go the whole show guessing who's he gonna marry. So I'll leave it at that. The manga's
Okay.
longer than the anime, so you
Uh-huh.
don't get the answer. But
Oh, they haven't. Okay. All right. Well, I guess I got to see which one I want to go through now. I'm gonna do Nisekoi for sure. Now I got to figure out if I'm gonna do the anime or manga of quintessential quintuplets.
quintuplets. Yeah.
What a
I mean,
concept.
yeah, if you're into manga, I would probably go the manga route for the quints and then watch the anime of Nisekoi.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you could do the manga for Nisekoi too. Really, it doesn't matter.
You're
But
winning either way, right?
yeah, you really are.
Okay. You
So
sold me on these though. I mean, the fact that like it's so high up on your list, I'm like, okay,
yeah,
I
man,
gotta, I gotta add this.
it's up there with the shonen, honestly, with some really good ones. So
That's what's up. I mean, yeah, people are really sleep on excuse me, on every other genre. Unfortunately in anime, like there's so many. In fact, I would say my favorite genres, like don't get me wrong, action is super dope, but
yeah.
comedy is so
Oh
underrated.
my god, yes.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh, Japanese comedy. I'm like, no, look, it's stupidly funny and it's great. I love
Yeah.
it.
It's an
Um,
acquired taste,
yeah, I
but
guess
like
so.
once
Yeah,
you've watched enough anime,
yeah, you get the hang of it.
you pick up enough like comedic cues even from all the shonen that then
Hmm.
when you actually take the dive into a comedy anime,
Hmm.
it's like, bro,
Yes,
That hits all the right spots.
it
I love
really
it.
does.
It's like,
Yeah, like
but it's like
go-
convincing people to watch like British comedy, which is so dry, and it's just like it's an acquired taste. But
yeah.
once you do get into it, it's like a
Yeah, it's
fine
still a
line.
taste.
It's
Yeah, it's
so good.
exactly. That's the way. Because, yeah, I mean, like even Slice of Life. So right now, I'm watching March Comes In Like a Lion, like season
Mm,
2 of that, and so good. I thought I would hate it. Like when I started, I was like, why would I want to watch some nerd kid complain about it? Playing chess, right?
yeah.
It's been really enjoyable and like has evoked the emotion. In fact, even recently, I like just like a few days ago, I was thinking to myself, like, what do I like more, video games or anime? And I have to say, I really like anime so much more, not just for the action, but like for like all the story beats, all the characterizations, all the
Mm,
times that like anime has made me like emotional and even straight up cry, but like laugh
mm.
super hard, cry, really think about like the way my life is going to be going. Video games, I love them, first love still, and still an active love, but at the same time, like anime like really gets to you, especially like when you really watch that really good show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, personally, I gotta say they're real close to tied, just because, like, man, video games been such a big thing for me since I was just old enough to even pick up a controller.
Yeah.
But at the same time, yeah, anime, I totally agree, can just hit different notes, with the exception of things like Hellblade, But, like, for most video games, though, you're playing it just for the entertainment value and, like, you're having fun and, like, testing yourself or whatever. Whereas,
Hmm.
like, anime can, they'll either teach you things or, like, touch your heart or make you laugh in a way like you just can't stop. Like, I think even Nisekoi, I just like laughed my ass off at some point and just like couldn't catch my breath. So funny. But yeah, anime pulls on a lot of strings.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, that's a hard choice for me.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
Not sure I'm ready to make that call, but I'm glad
yeah.
that you made that call.
Yeah, like I mean, I had to think about it, and maybe it's because like like I work in it, but at the same
That's true.
time,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like that's an extra bias. But
I
you
do
know,
enjoy the anime community, I will
yeah,
say, a
I'd
lot
say more.
more than gamer culture communities.
Yeah,
And I mean, not
although
to say that they're bad,
yeah, but they can
but
be like
there's,
troublesome, right, or a little
yeah,
toxic every now and
they
then. Yeah,
can,
not every now and then. They can be toxic.
yeah, pretty much. There's a lot of cancellation in the gamer community. So,
Yeah, yeah, for real. I would say that like video game conventions have been more favorite than anime conventions.
really,
Ironic, yeah. Video game
more.
conventions. Every time I go to a video game convention, I'm having a blast. Like it's like playing the video games for sure, but then with people.
Yeah.
But it's just sort of like like it's. I would say it's more fun. You want to go to the panels. You want to go
Oh, okay.
to
That's
the show
true.
floor. Yeah, you want to do the things. You want to do the activities with other gamers. Like even watching tournaments is just sort of like, okay, this is legit. We're
Okay.
all here for whatever reason. Even if I don't watch these tournaments already, it's like okay, like I can get into hype. It's like being at a football game. You get hype nonetheless, even if you don't watch football. All
Mm-hmm.
right. But then again, if you're at a game convention, you probably know a little bit enough to like get into it, right? You're not like, I don't know what's going
Yeah,
on,
I mean,
right?
you're not going to go to a gaming convention and not play video games at
Yeah,
least
that'd be
a
bizarre.
good chunk of your time. So
Hmm. Yeah.
I feel
So
that.
definitely go to a video. Like for example, like my favorite convention, I would say maybe of all time, Screw Attack Game Convention. Unfortunately, they stopped that. Yeah, like it was now since they're part of Rooster Teeth, but like I went to that for like 3 years, and that one was like okay, like we're all sort of equal. Even like the stars, like they're all on the show floor just playing games and drinking beers, right?
Okay.
Like arcade games, like or you can just go talk to them like or after like a panel and just community of people like was just so amazing. It didn't really feel. It felt like everyone was very equal versus like a level of stratification. So
Okay.
that's one thing that I think I really enjoyed. And it was just playing video games. Like it was like boiled down to like its simplest form. Play video
Yeah.
games, drink some beers, have a good time.
It's much more down to earth.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Chill, not having to put on a persona, things like that. Okay.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
can dig it. Yeah,
Hmm.
I've honestly never been to one. So
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
once things
PAX.
open up, I definitely got to go. Yeah, I
Absolutely.
almost went to PAX last
Oh
year.
man.
Almost. Don't remember what happened, what came up, but just last minute was like, I'm not going to
Yeah,
make it.
that's life. I'm hoping like now that Corona is like now starting to decline. I am hoping that like with events coming back, for sure, anime conventions. I'm hoping that can grow so much more. Like I'm hoping that we don't go back to like the old problems. I'm hoping that
Yeah.
we can um, revamp it. To
Mhm.
get rid of the things that like really sucked and to if anything, at least personally, like I have a more zest for going to a convention. Like I remember like thinking like right before Corona, like in February or January, I was like, gotta go to convention season again. Drat, like low key taking it for granted, but at the same time, like loving it, absolutely
Yeah.
loving it, but at the same time taking it for granted. I was just like, we always do this. It's starting to get boring, right?
Yeah. I do totally understand that. I think probably not this last season, but probably the season before it. Because like this last one was whenever like we got together and like made a bunch of stuff happen.
Yeah.
So like that was definitely like it hyped it back up for me. But I think it was probably the year before, like 2017 or
17 or 18.
18. Yeah, I started to feel like maybe I'm too old for this, man. Like it's starting to not be a whole
Yeah,
lot of
it's
fun.
fun.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I think definitely, with how reinvigorated we are as a team, that's dope. And like with just not only, life in general, but like the new season and the new plans and things that we're going to do, I think we can carry that over, honestly, into enthusiasm for, you know, doing things different, just like you were just saying, for the next round of anime conventions and just enjoying it, and making sure other people enjoy it.
Yes.
Whenever that is, if it's this year, and God forbid we have to wait another, but you know what? At some point, we're going to make it happen again, and I'm looking forward to that.
Dang, that was so well said. that was
Thanks,
beautiful,
man.
honestly. And honestly, thank you very much for this episode. This was a
Yeah.
very good episode. I really enjoyed hearing about your perspective on all this. And I got more questions in the future. Definitely got to ask
Sure.
about the ministry stuff. Would love to hear more about the Viking stuff. The disorder stuff. Like I didn't even know that you knew about all that, and I would love to pick your brain on more of that. Pick your brain. But this was a great episode, man. I'm glad that I got to bring you back on this podcast episode, and I'm excited. You were right. Like I feel reinvigorated for this season and for what's to come with the whole That's Dope entertainment side of things.
Yes.
Got some plans. Of course, events, more podcasts. Hoping to start streaming. In fact, we should really start streaming together pretty soon.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, I'll start playing PC games and I can actually like play with people.
I'll walk you into it. I got you.
I'm gonna do it. So yeah, I feel excited. Yeah, thank you so much for being on this episode. Is there
Absolutely.
any last things you might want to say, or plan to have you back on the podcast soon. So
And yeah, absolutely. Next time we can deep dive into anything you want to do, the Viking stuff, or I can talk forever about mental disorder and psychology and things like that. I'm very, very well studied in those things. But I mean, less of a focus on me. I just look forward to, our future podcast, as well as when we pick up that keyboard and we start streaming together.
Hey, I'm gonna
stream
all
it for the
right, time
people.
to pick up the keyboard.
Oh, there it is. All right, let's go.
So heavy. The mouse.
Oh, man.
I'm hyped though. I'm hyped. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for being on the podcast, and everyone who listened, thank you so much. You guys are really dope. Really appreciate you and the support. Definitely stick with us as this year continues, because we have a lot planned. Finally, actually getting organized. These guys on the team have started up something called a planner and schedules. I'm like, what?
Wow.
So, and also we're hoping to be like a lot more consistent, with the weekly drops. So, stay tuned. Thursdays, that's the plan at the moment for when episodes are coming out. So, if you listen to episodes, please, love to hear from you. Love to hear what you think about these episodes. Hell, even love to bring you on the episodes if that's your cup of tea. But as always, thank you guys for being dope. Stay dope. Peace.
Peace.